Hey guys, this is Connor at Conquest HP, and in this video I'm going to talk about determining cause and effect for your pains, your tension, for whatever symptoms you might be dealing with right now, because it's a dangerous game to play, but it's something that we all do, even me as a strength coach and as a trainer and as a therapist. My first gut reaction is always to try to blame one thing for a pain or for a symptom. But I have to resist that because it's almost never the case. So, an example, a lot of people deal with low back pain and low back stiffness and tension. And it's easy to blame those symptoms on sitting too much. It's very common to blame sitting too much. But it's actually very hard to say that sitting on its own is causing those symptoms. There's probably a myriad of things, myriad of factors that are contributing to this. And you can have one person sitting for 8 hours a day doing whatever job they're doing, and the person next to them sitting 8 hours a day at work alone, doing the same job with the same kind of stress levels and a very similar lifestyle, won't have pain. So why is it that one person deals with it and one person doesn't? And that's where we get into the complexity of this discussion. Your pain can come from a dozen different factors. We could blame it on the fact that you sit too much, or maybe you're doing too much deadlifting in the gym. You're trying to do that too many days a week. Or maybe your posture is really awful when you're standing. Or maybe your movement mechanics aren't really optimal to kind of deload the lower back. Maybe you just have a ton of stiffness in the low back that you need to work out. Whatever it may be, each thing is just one factor. And it's very, very rare that you're going to have one factor that completely causes the symptom. So even when you're in the gym or you're in the garden or whatever you might be doing, and you do one discrete action, like you bend over to tie your shoes, and then you get a symptom right afterwards. Ow, my back now hurts. Ow, there's some radiating pain in my leg. There's stiffness or tension there, whatever. It's very tempting to say, well, it's because I bent this way to tie my shoes. That's what did it. But it's almost always a case of the straw that breaks the camel's back. Was it just because you bent over to tie your shoes that one time? Because I'm sure that you've done that thousands of times, or at least hundreds of times in your life to this point. Or was it because over the last week, your sleep has been off, you haven't been drinking enough water, your diet's been off, you've been more stressed than usual, you've been working in the garden because it's nice weather all of a sudden, and that means a whole lot more bending. You've been trying to keep up with the gym on top of all of this, and then that straw that breaks the back is trying to put on your shoes. And that's when you say, well, there you go, bending over is dangerous, so I should avoid doing that at all costs. Or you get the overly simplistic thing like lift with your legs, not with your back. But try to take your back out of a squat. Try to take your back out of a deadlift. It doesn't work. Too simplistic. Okay, so it's very tough to determine that an effect has come from one cause. So when you have a symptom or a pain, or you have tension somewhere in your body that you don't want, resist the urge at all costs to say this is coming from this alone, because it is almost never the case. Instead, look at things a little more holistically, a little bit more as a system. Are you giving your body what it needs in terms of sleep and hydration and nutrition and mobility work and strength work? Because you need all of those things. If you don't have adequate strength or adequate mobility, it's going to predispose you to all kinds of problems. Not necessarily cause those problems, but it's going to increase the likelihood that you'll have to deal with those things. Are you asking too much of your body? Does your work involve you bending over quite a bit at the waist and maybe your mechanics aren't great? Or are you sitting all day and then you get up and you try to do something really active, something really dynamic, like going right from your desk into a CrossFit workout or something like that that has heavy demands on the body? Is sitting all day preparing you for that? Is sitting all day detrimental to your tissue health, and that may be pushing you over the edge when you try to do something like the workout, which is perfectly reasonable in normal circumstances. So that's the kind of thing you have to ask. And when you start looking at yourself as a system or as a whole, then you start to see kind of the holes in your game. If you're eating poorly and not drinking enough water and you barely sleep at night, is bending over really the thing that's going to hurt your back, or is it those other things that are kind of combining into like the perfect storm that's going to lead to symptoms regardless? Because we can have those two people that work the same job and that can do similar workouts, and one person will have pain and one person won't have pain. And that's because it's extremely complex. So don't try to simplify it any more than you need to. Instead, try to open it up. Don't make it more complex or needlessly complex, but open it up. Broaden your horizons on what could possibly be leading to those potential symptoms, because that's going to open your eyes to some blind spots that maybe would prevent recovery in the long run. And if you get stuck in that mindset of, hey, me bending over to put on my shoes caused a whole bunch of back pain. It was that one thing. I'm positive it was that one thing that caused my back pain. So I'm just not going to do that anymore. And then you stop doing it. And then you think you're safe. Well, you're just going to continue with all these other lifestyle problems that probably contributed just as much. And you won't learn anything about yourself in the process. And then when you inevitably get that back pain again at some other point, you're going to wonder why. You're going to say, I haven't been bending over to put on my shoes, so what could it possibly be? And then you're going to pick one other devil, like, oh, it must be putting on my socks, or it must be whatever, picking up a toddler, or whatever it is. And you just say, well, I just can't do that anymore. And then your life becomes really simple because you don't allow yourself to do anything fun at all. So that's not good. Look at the big picture. Try not to pick out a simple cause and effect. Try to look at the whole big picture. Look at yourself holistically. And then if there's still what appears to be a pretty clear cause and effect, sometimes you are just doing way too much of one thing. You're loading the body way too much in one way. Then think about changing that. But always think of yourself as like a complete system that you need to feed into in multiple ways, rather than just one simple problem, one simple solution, because that's the way it works. So don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe. If you have questions or comments, definitely leave them below, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.